Kerbal Space Program Reddit Apollo Challenge. Hey guys, here's my attempt at the Reddit Apollo Challenge on the Kerbal Space Program Reddit, and I did all of this in one take from Kerbin to the moon and back, so hope you like it. Alright, so this is my attempt at the Reddit Apollo Challenge, and I did this in 3 separate tries, this being the one that I actually made it. I did it all in one take. Like, I have edited this video, but it was all shot at one time. I did the entire mission all at once, took about an hour, and I just had a lot of fun doing this challenge. I had a lot of fun designing this rocket. At first I was trying to make it look like an actual Apollo rocket, but it was just too unnecessarily big. It doesn't need to be that big for Kerbin, obviously. I especially liked designing the lander with the descent module and the ascent module, and the docking that happened during the transfer. That was fun to set up. And at the time that I launched this, I had only tested the staging of it. Like, I had launched it and just made sure all the staging was correct, but I hadn't actually done the mission yet, or any parts of the mission. And like I said, this was all done at once. It took me about an hour, and I had a blast, and I want to do more of these Reddit challenges. Alright, so since I ran out of fuel here on my transfer stage, I had to move to my descent stage on my lander to complete the lunar transfer burn, which I wasn't exactly happy about, but I needed to get that done before I did the docking, so I guess it was okay. So as soon as I get my encounter here, I start the undocking and redocking so that I can use the command module stage to make adjustments and get us down into an orbit around the moon. And right here, when I undocked, the little cover for the engine on the command module didn't come off like I thought it would, so I kind of had to push it out of the way before I could dock. So this was kind of tedious and took a while. So if anyone knows of a way to, set up your staging to where you can get rid of that when you separate 2 stages, that would be nice to know in the comments. So this docking took me quite a while because as I said, I was doing these in one take, so everything was really crucial that I didn't mess it up. So there we go, we got the docking. Now it's time to make a couple adjustments to bring ourselves into the moon. And there we go, now we're on our way. Now as I was coming down to the moon, I was getting pretty nervous because I had done this 2 times already and had been working on it for a couple hours, and that doesn't even count the designing the rocket. So obviously the landing was the most dangerous and most crucial part, and I was just really hoping that it would go well. So I bring my orbit down. I wanted to try to make it as perfect as possible, and one other thing I have to say about my landing stage, I definitely used the wrong engine. The engine I used did not have enough power. It's the one with the, I think it has 40 thrust, and it can't do the normal landing that I like to do. So, oh yes, and I undocked a little bit prematurely before I transferred them over, but it was no big deal. It stayed right there the whole time. So, now, the first couple times I try to land, I'm going to show you here just to show you that I was at full power all the way down, and this still managed to happen. It was just not enough power. I was going too fast, couldn't slow down, and I ended up losing Jeb there. And since I recorded all of this at once, I wasn't actually able to take Jeb on the real mission because he was MIA at the time. So here we are coming down really conservatively. I'd started burning really high up and came down as slow as possible because I know even with the fuel that I transferred back into the command module, this landing stage has plenty of fuel. It'll make it just fine. So I basically slow down to nothing and just bring it all the way to the ground really, really, really slowly. And I know in my last video I said that was the best landing I've ever done. Well, this one, just out of terror and being nervous, managed to be my best landing yet. So I was pretty happy about it once I touched down. And you can see my shadow there. So now I'm just trying to bring it down, bring the throttle down to a point where it's going to zero out right as I reach the ground. And it got pretty close. So I brought 2 rovers just to keep the thing balanced, and also in case one of them flips over like that, which I'm glad I did because I wasn't able to pick it back up. Luckily the other rover landed on its wheels, and I realized that I put these seats kind of strange so they're facing out to the side, facing the ground. So, plant a flag there for the challenge. And then I got in the rover and I wanted to go check out this deep crater you can see in the distance. So I started driving out there, and then I kind of realized it was going to take a while, so I started going as fast as I possibly could. And the rover didn't like that very much. It even threw Mac off. Or Bob, I can't remember. So, at this point I kind of decided maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe we should just head out, because that's the safest option at this point. So I bring the guys back to the ascent module, which I had a lot of fun designing this and trying to pack the fuel down there with having an engine between between the landing can and the fuel tank like that. So I used these 4 tanks laying on their side, which I thought was kind of cool. And now the takeoff, I completely messed this up. I got my angle all wrong. I launched way too early. And yeah, you can see there, I adjust it, but then I don't stop when it's at the right angle. I just keep burning in that direction, unfortunately, so it caused me quite a bit of trouble when I got up into orbit. So that is the little Poodle engine, and it's got plenty of power to lift off a lander can from the moon with 4 small tanks of fuel. I had tons of fuel left when I got into orbit, and even though my little rendezvous took probably a half hour, it still had fuel left by the time I got up there. Alright, so here I'm just trying to match the orbit altitudes of my 2 spacecraft as much as possible. And like I said, after about a half hour, I got this close encounter and was able to finally bring it in and redock. And now, once I dock, I transfer the crew over, And I also take what's left of the fuel out of those 4 fuel tanks, just because I want to have the maximum amount of fuel in the command module as possible. So there we are, our second successful docking, this one with a rendezvous, and there I'm just transferring the fuel. So at this point comes the sort of bad news. Just as we transfer the crew back over, even with that extra fuel from the ascent stage, I still didn't have quite enough to perform the water landing, unfortunately. I wasn't able to set up my return just right. I wasn't sure what kind of altitude I should come in at, and I wouldn't have been satisfied with just coming straight at Kerbin and hitting the ocean at 3,000 meters per second in a giant fireball. So I thought, well, I'll just try to come around the back, and maybe if I get my altitude right, I'll land in the ocean. And at this point, I was probably getting a little bit tired and was, not sure that it was even going to work, because I had done this already twice and failed in the exact same place, so I was a little bit frustrated. And anyway, I bring it down just like any normal landing I would, coming back from the moon. And I probably worked for a good, 5 or 10 minutes trying to bring it down just perfectly where it would land in the ocean. But I just didn't manage to do it. And I was happy enough about it because it was, a one-take thing from, the whole mission was done at once. No loading, no saving. Well, I did save a couple times, but I didn't end up using the loads. So yeah, anyway, right there, ran out of fuel, just decided to ditch it and go down. And I almost managed to land in a lake, though I don't think that would have counted. Anyway, though, I was happy with it. I know I don't get the marks for completing the challenge, but I still thought it was a successful mission, and I really enjoyed myself. It was a lot of fun designing the rocket and actually completing it from start to end. And I was pretty proud of myself. I don't consider myself a great Kerbal Space Program player, but I really have a lot of fun playing it. So if you liked the video, please let me know. Leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you want to see some other stuff I'm doing. And thanks a lot for watching.